Hi, my name's John. Welcome to another Sunday night nightcap. These nightcaps are certainly coming on quickly now. The nights are starting to get a little bit darker, which means I'll be able to spend a little bit more time in my shop, I suppose. Tonight's nightcap, I'm making an engine mounting for a friend of mine. He's putting a Fiat engine into a Ford. It's just a plate with a bit of box section welded on, and then he's going to make it fit his car, and I'm going to go and weld it in for him. It gave us a chance to try a little welder that Rob from Extreme Plasma sent up for us. It's a little SIP 130, basically a flux core gasless welder. I gave that a try and get pleasantly surprised. I am actually going to do a review on the welder probably sometime next week. In part 2, I make a gear change locking pin for a large traction engine. I had a ride on a traction engine a couple of weeks ago, and he had an old bolt put in to stop it from jumping out of gear, and I said I would like to make him a proper pin. I've made them before. I make it just to what a designer I like. A little bit of taper turning and some polishing in the lathe. The Stuart Turner engine's coming on quite well. I'll put some more video up on Monday night. If you want a preview or you want a look a bit earlier, have a look at the link and have a look on my Patreon channel. If you want to go on to Patreon and support me, you do see the videos at least 2 weeks before anybody else sees them, and there is some really interesting stuff on there. There's some more traction engine film in 4K super high resolution. Anyway, have a look, see what you think. As a lad I know putting I think it's a Fiat engine into a Ford, and he wants an engine mounting, making basically a square plate welded onto some square tube. He sent a drone. I've loaded the drone into the plasma machine, and I'm going to cut it out of 8mm plate. This shows how it's going to cut the part. It's going to cut the holes first from the inside, so you don't get a little piece left, and it's going to cut the outside from the outside. This is just a scrap I've had. I had to cut some circles out for a lad, and these are the centre parts. So I've just welded a little bit of bar on to hold it, and I'm just going to utilise that bit of plate. The initial piercing of the hole is the hard bit. This piece of box section gets welded on, running straight through those 2 diagonal holes. I've got some sizes to get in the right place. Now, if I just weld that onto there, that plate will buckle. It's 8mm plate, but it'll still bend. So I've got a bit of nice stiff plate to bolt it to. This bit here, it'll pick some holes up. We'll get those 2 holes, and then some clamps on that side, and that should hopefully stop it from moving. It's amazing how metal actually twists and bends when you weld it. You can actually use that sometimes to straighten parts. I've seen lads straighten things using the heat of welding to do it. I often weld up bearing races, bearing out our tracks. Put a nice bead of weld around them, and as the weld cools and shrinks, it pulls the track in and the track just falls out. There's also a couple of spacers to make it, space it off from the block. Little turning job, and then we'll just tack them into place. and he's going to cut this to length, and then I'm going to go and weld it into his car for him. I'm going to weld this together using this little SIP 130 hobby MIG welder. This has been sent up by Rob from Extreme Plasma for us to do a review on. I've used it a couple of times and up to now I'm quite impressed. I'm going to weld it on flux core or gasless MIG as it's sometimes called. It needs to be a strong weld. We'll give it a go and see what happens. There's not a great lot the matter with that. That went in there very well. That's a nice weld. That certainly isn't going to give any problems. I'll weld as much of this as I can before I remove any of the stiffening bolts. Right, for a hobby gasless welder running on a 13 amp supply, you've got to agree that's good. You can tell when it was welding, it was going right through, which that's not going to give any problems at all. That's what I welded it on. Flux core, 0.8 wire, less than half its full rated output. That's your course control on there, which controls voltage and wire speed, and you've got a fine control on there which just tweaks the wire up or down. I'm really impressed with that, considering it's so small, and like I say, 13 amp. I'm looking forward to doing some future tests on it. There's a bit of mild steel bar here to make a little spacer. It needs to be 20mm long and 80mm in diameter with a 10mm clearance hole through it. I think it's just 25mm bar. It is indeed. We want 18, so I want 7mm off it. So we're left with 1 more mil to go. So 19 there. $17.8 will do for John. And on 20mm, just there. Right, we're going to tack this onto the jaw and then that's him sorted. Right, good on that hole. It doesn't need welding all the way around because it cannot go anywhere, it's actually held against the block. So we'll just put a couple of decent tacks on the back of it. Just turn the welding power down a notch or one division. That's all it should need. Right, there's certainly decent tack welds. Nothing at all the matter with that. Very pleased with it. The plate's still flat because it was clamped to that heavy bit. That's that bit done.